There's not a whole lot most Americans agree on politically these days, but one exception has been Ukrainian President Zelensky. In a recent poll, 72% of U.S. adults said they have confidence he'd do the right thing regarding world affairs, far more than any other international leader on the list. And whether he's appearing at the Grammys, before Congress, or the United Nations, his courage in the face of Russia's massacre is undeniable.
The war doesn't let us choose who survives and who stays in internal silence.
I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the death. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace.
So it's not exactly a surprise that this year's World Leader for Peace and Security Award from the Boston Global Forum and the Michael Dukakis Institute will go to President Zelensky. For more on that and a few other political issues closer to home, I'm joined by the chair of both groups. That would be former Governor Michael Dukakis. Governor, it's wonderful to see you.
And happy to be with you, and you're looking good.
Well, you're looking pretty good yourself. You know, speaking of that, when you became an octogenarian, you said to me on the show, you know, Jim, 80 is the new 20. So what is 88?
Well, it's heading for 89 in November, but so far so good.
So far so good. Governor, the world has seen a leader who was a TV comedian morph into an almost Churchillian character. Do you remember a coming-of-age moment for a world leader, anything like Zelensky's?
No, nothing like this. It's really remarkable.
And what stands out most for you?
Well, for one thing, he is in danger constantly. Correct. I mean, somebody, I guess, is protecting him, but how he's managed to stay alive, for heaven's sake, through all of this. Not to mention provide the kind of leadership and courage that he has is pretty remarkable. Just I don't know that we've had an example quite like this in our lifetimes. And my hat's off to him. I just hope the international community can support him and in some way try to connect with the Russians and try to explain to them that what they're doing is not only wrong, it's crazy. I mean, don't they understand that people understand them and what they're doing? And it's just, I've never seen anything quite like this, but we've got an extraordinary guy in Ukraine, and he has demonstrated incredible courage and leadership.
Yeah, speaking of leadership, let's come back to the United States, but stay on the same topic. Here is President Biden speaking to the North American Building Trades Council's legislative conference just today.
There's nothing less happening than major war crimes. Responsible nations have to come together to hold these perpetrators accountable. And together with our allies and our partners, we're going to keep raising the economic cost and ratchet up the pain for Putin and further increase Russia's economic isolation.
You know, almost every day, Governor, I think of something Quentin Tarantino, the director, said during the Me Too scandal as related to Harvey Weinstein. He said, I knew enough to have done more. And I'll tell you, every single night when I watch these images on CNN, I am convinced that 2 or 3 years out, Americans of kind souls are going to say, we saw enough on our television screens at night to have done more to help the Ukrainians. Do you think the U.S. is doing enough?
I think we're doing enough. And I'm impressed with the kind of leadership that we've had, not only from Joe Biden, but from this interesting group of allies that have come together in a remarkable way. We may have arrived at the point, especially now, having seen what the Russians have been doing, to go further. But I don't think it was a mistake to proceed carefully and cautiously and effectively. But maybe it's time for more than that, especially after seeing what happened over the past few days, weeks, whatever, in some of those communities. Just absolutely frightful. And the thing I don't understand, Jim, is don't the Russians understand that nobody believes them? That this notion that this is the result of Nazis, modern Nazis in Ukraine, is something that we ought to believe and buying into. I mean, I don't get it. But
Well, there was a leader not here so long ago in this country where you could say, doesn't he know that most people don't believe him, but it didn't deter him either. You know, the other thought I have, Governor, almost every day is a larger swath of Americans seems to be more concerned about the future of democracy in Ukraine than it is about the future of democracy in this country. How does that strike you?
It strikes me very badly, and I hope you're wrong, but I can't disagree with you. I mean, I don't understand. It's not just Trump. I just don't understand folks who don't seem to understand just how precious this democracy of ours is and how important it is that we preserve it, strengthen it, and take it seriously, whether we agree or disagree in certain areas. It's just, I don't quite understand the folks that have continued to support Trump and to do so under impossible circumstances. And we'll see. But
well, you know, we'll see pretty soon, it seems, because, you know, while you know and I know, 70% of Republicans tell pollsters they believe that Joe Biden is not the legitimate president. The rubber hits the road in May or June when the January 6th committee, in my estimation, is going to come pretty close to producing a smoking gun in terms of Trump and the insurrection. But, you know, you hearken back to the infamous, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose a vote. And I'm paraphrasing, obviously, what candidate Trump said. If the January 6th committee does produce a smoking gun, does that in any way reduce the influence, the trance that Donald Trump has put over the Republican Party?
Well, I don't talk to a lot of Republicans these days. I suppose I should more than I do. But my sense is that he's beginning to get into a lot of trouble politically, both among Republicans, at least a lot of them, as well as people generally. I think he's going to be a real problem for the Republicans politically because he continues to assert whatever it is that he asserts. And I think gradually the kind of support he was getting in the Republican Party is going to be fading, but I think he's still going to be a terribly difficult problem politically for the Republicans as we move toward the midterms and beyond.
Well, you know, it really depends, I guess, on who the Republicans are. I mean, I'm sure you read that Fred Upton, one of the 10 Republicans who voted for impeachment in the House, said he wasn't running for re-election.
Very solid.
Four of the 10 have said they aren't running, and the other 6 have primaries where in some or virtually all have Trump-endorsed primary opposition. Right. The moderate Republican Party is dead, is it not?
Yeah, disappeared, yeah. And these are very good people, very good people. You know, I worked with lots of Republicans in the course of life.
I know you did.
And you knew many of them. And they were good people. We shared a lot of the same concerns, the same feelings. Many of them were outstanding in what they did, their commitment to civil liberties, to the environment, to a whole series of things. But they certainly seem to be disappearing from the Republican Party these days. And when you lose people like the folks that you mentioned, you're losing very good people.
So do you see a road out of this mess? I mean, how do we get back to that promised land?
I don't know. I just don't know. And I'm concerned enough with the prospects of Democrats to focus on that. But I'm just baffled at what's going on in the Republican Party these days.
Well,
We'll see.
Governor, in our remaining minutes, let's come home for a minute. I hope people have seen this thing out of this great package out of NBC Boston from late last year, where that's Trash Boy from TikTok. I don't mean that in a disparaging way. That's how he identifies himself. And you two are doing what I've seen you do, and you've been doing for decades, is what you can do to keep our communities clean and help the environment. We lived through yet another UN report this week talking about dire, dire circumstances, but some hope there. Do you have hope? I mean, we just encountered a situation where I would have thought, maybe naively, that when we say we're going to try to wean ourselves off Russian gas and oil, it's a perfect opportunity to take a closer look at alternative fuels, non-fossil fuels. But in essence, it seems most of the world has embraced sort of a drill, baby, drill response to this Russian cutoff.
No, I don't think it's that extreme. And there's a lot going on alternative energy that's taking place and is very encouraging, notwithstanding what we're seeing. But we don't have a lot of time, Jim. And we don't get moving as an international community on doing serious things about conventional energy, if you will, and its effects, we're not going to have much of a planet. I may not be around, you may not be around, but it's very, very troubling.
I plan to be around for a long time. I hope you do too. One last thing, Governor, before you go. When South Station was named for you, and I spoke to you shortly thereafter, I have to say I've rarely seen a public figure who had an important place named after him, the Michael S. Dukakis, I think, Transportation Center at South Boston. I don't mean this disrespectfully, care less about it. Your focus immediately turned to what you really care about, North-South Rail, South Station to North Station. Charlie Baker wasn't crazy about it. He's leaving. Is North-South Rail in our future, realistically, not what you hope, but what you believe?
With a new governor and with the funds that are now available through the national infrastructure effort, of course it is. And it's essential, Jim. I mean,
why?
Because we've got a very important rail corridor, which is going to become increasingly important as time goes on, with a hole in the middle of it in downtown Boston. And it's time we close that. As, by the way, other cities. I remember, I went to school in Philly, and I remember having to walk a half a mile between the suburban station and the north-south station in order to get home. In the early 1980s, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania closed that gap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they did it, why can't we do it? And this is not that difficult a project. And the funds are out there now. So I hope we'll move on it. It would take thousands of cars off the road every day and improve our quality of life, do all kinds of stuff. So that's my hope, and I hope you and I are going to be around when it happens.
I think so, and I want to be at the dedication of the Michael Stanley Dukakis North-South Rail, Governor. So I'll see you there, and it's great to see you today, and be well. Take care of yourself.
Thanks so much.